negotiations continue with the national bus strike now in day 2. The CCMA is trying to help resolve the dispute between workers and employers. Bus drivers demanding 12% as a wage increase, companies only offering 7%. eNCA's Silindelo Masikane joins us via Skype now with the latest as she looks at those negotiations. Slee, good afternoon to you. So has any progress been made?
Unfortunately, there aren't any resolutions so far, but I would assume progress is being made because, of course, the negotiations started at around 10:30 this morning, and they've just been locked in talks ever since then. Now, if I can just explain exactly the setup of these negotiations, behind me over here is where the unions are all caucused and sitting, and then to my left on this side, we have the employers' organizations also in a caucus. Now, the bargaining council, which is obviously the mediation between the two, is basically relaying information back and forth between the two parties. You know, obviously when they met this morning, they kind of gave a brief background as to what's happening, why they're at this point, and the commissioner obviously did arrive as well, and he is now mediating these talks between the unions as well as the employers. Now, they've been locked in these talks since 10:30 this morning. It's 1:30. They broke for lunch a few minutes ago, and they didn't even spend an hour for lunch. Basically, everyone just came out, grabbed what they had to eat, and is back inside in their caucuses.
Difficult, I imagine, for you to try and gauge the tone of this meeting, but I want to refer to an interview on the public broadcaster last night, quoting a representative from the South African Transport and Allied Workers Union, essentially saying that the goal of the union is, and I quote, to hit the employers of bus drivers and the economy very hard. So there is an enormous amount of work if that gap is going to close.
Yes, indeed, Jeremy. I mean, the mood and the tone from the negotiations that I'm getting so far right now is pretty, it's hopeful. People are actually determined to find a resolution. So it looks like people are coming to the table, and compromises are just going to have to be made in order for a resolution to be found here. It's just a matter of who's willing to compromise what and where.
Just finally then, I know you've been based at the CCMA today, but you also would have been tracking the impact of the strike, not only on commuters. You're going to a second day of difficulty, both getting to work and going home from work, but this is also starting now to have a spillover effect as far as productivity is concerned.
Indeed, indeed. Of course, thousands of commuters have been affected by this strike. Of course, bus drivers promised to intensify the strike today as the negotiations take place, and they vowed not to go back to work up until these negotiations are concluded. Of course, this morning we had a very similar situation as to yesterday, where there were long queues at the taxi ranks, you know, school children struggling to get to work, struggling to get to school rather, and of course workers struggling to get to work. And so we expect a similar situation this afternoon, and hopefully, you know, there is a resolution to these talks today. However, we understand that 2 days have been set aside for these talks, so they may actually continue up until tomorrow. So commuters should be aware that, you know, and make provisions for making alternative arrangements for transport this afternoon as well as for tomorrow if there is no resolution found by this afternoon. And the bus companies have also told commuters that their tags will be extended for the amount of time in which the strike commenced and when it ends. So their tags will be valid. However, of course, many did not budget for the strike, and you know, when you buy your bus tag months in advance, you don't expect to have to pay even more for transport at a later stage, especially in the middle of the month.
All right, if and when those talks conclude, and to check in on any progress throughout the course of the afternoon, we will return to the CCMA here in Johannesburg. eNCA reporter Silindelo Masikane, thank you.